How often do you do these things? You may even tend to do these things as a part of your everyday routine without even realizing it. Do you think your actions could be a contributing factor to rapidly increasing allergy rates?
The hygiene hypothesis is the idea that our hyperclean world is affecting our allergy rates, causing significant increases among them. The hypothesis revolves around the idea that while there is a decrease in bacterial infections, allergic and autoimmune disorder rates are rising, especially as cleanliness becomes more complicated and important to us.
The hypothesis was first proposed by David P. Strachan during the 1980s, who noticed an inverse correlation between hay fever and the number of older siblings an individual had. Basically, he discovered that the larger the household, the less likely a child in that household was to fall susceptible to disease. In this case, hay fever. The reason for this is because the siblings were able to be exposed to more germs, causing them to create types of immunities against the germs relating to hay fever.
The hypothesis provides an explanation for the rise in allergy prevalence in our world, with evidence from animal models and clinical trials supporting the claim. Studies have shown that some infectious agents, particularly those that co-evolved with us, can protect us from a number of immune diseases and disorders. This is all related to the concept of immunity.
Immunity is gained through past experience with certain microbes. Recognition proteins on white blood cells act as macrophages and are able to recognize and attack foreign invaders such as bacteria and pathogens. An individual is less likely to become ill from the same pathogen twice because of the work of white blood cells, or in other words, they are immune to that specific pathogen.
An allergic reaction describes a reaction to an allergen that is misguided due to the fact that the invader is generally harmless. Typical allergens popular in our world today include pollen, dust mites, molds, dander, and other foods such as peanuts or almonds.
Infectious diseases are disorders caused by organisms such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, or parasites. Many organisms live in and on our bodies. Most of these are normally harmless or may even be helpful to us. But under certain conditions, some of these organisms may contain viruses that can cause disease within our bodies.
Over time, health standards have improved and hygiene regulations have become more prominent within our society. Contributing factors to health standards include geographics, timing, food habits, and quality of medical care. All of these factors assist in supporting the strong correlation between changes in lifestyle and modifications of the incidence of allergies or autoimmune diseases.
Since it has been introduced, the hypothesis has received backlash because of the lack of hard evidence provided, as well as its tendency to exhibit its own type of placebo effect among individuals. Many believe that this hypothesis serves as a reason to distrust hygiene, leading to the increase in autoimmune disorders.
In order to find out for ourselves whether or not the hygiene hypothesis is a legitimate claim, we researched the effects hygiene has on allergies, cleanliness standards in the past and present, as well as immunity. To test our knowledge on the debate, we will be conducting a Jeopardy game with all the facts you need to know about our biology. Lysol disinfectant spray was introduced in the late 1800s to prevent the spread of cholera, which is a disease of the small intestine typically contracted from the infected water supply. The Lysol company, which is based outside of Europe, promotes an array of different products that prevent the spread of germs and promote cleanliness. Lysol disinfectant spray is an aerosol, meaning that it is condensed liquid that releases a gas when sprayed. The liquid released includes denatured ethyl alcohol, dimethyl benzyl, and ammonium saccharide, which is a disinfectant. It also includes carbon dioxide and other inactive ingredients. These chemicals work together as a team to eliminate the number of bacteria, so there is little to no opportunity for it to thrive and for it to spread. Most microbacteria require specific environments to effectively maintain homeostasis. Therefore, when disrupted, the bacteria cannot thrive and reproduce. Lysol kills nearly 99% of bacteria and viruses, which is why it's perfect for your household needs. Tonight's game will work just as our other Jeopardy games. However, since many of the questions are based around a theory, it will be very detailed and they won't use the what is in their answers. Now let's start by introducing the contestants. Here playing tonight is our first guest, Jenny McLovin. Jenny is a Harvard graduate who recently quit her job to focus on her favorite hobby, soap making. Jenny recently opened up her soap making business in the basement of her home and helps meet all the needs of her high demand orders with the help of her supportive brother, John. Jenny will be up against Shadow McGee. Shadow McGee is currently attending Plymouth State University in her junior year as an anthropology major with a minor in health promotions. First up is Jenny. Pick any category and price you want.
I'll go for effects on allergies for 100.
Can you name a possible reason why there has been a recent rise in allergies in the past few decades?
I know it. This is likely due to a parent having an allergic airway disease like asthma and not progressing into a more severe phenotype in their children, such as a food allergy.
Correct. Great answer. Your turn to pick a question, Shadow.
Let's do cleanliness standards past versus present for 300.
All right, Shadow. For 300, can you please describe to us the sanitary reform movement of 1838?
During the Industrial Revolution, sanitation was at an all-time low. There was an overwhelming of cities which put stress on the sewer system, and the increase in factories caused factory pollution to become a whole new problem. The reform suggested an arterial system for clean water, which later prompted other sanitary regulations to be put into place.
Correct again. Your total is now $400. Can you pick another question?
I'll do effects on allergies for 200.
Okay, let's see what we have here. How does skin play a role in allergy progression?
Does it have to do with the type of cells on the skin?
I'm sorry, Shadow, but that's actually incorrect. The integumentary system aids in allergy progression in that it directly exposed to food allergen in the environment. Individuals can become more susceptible if they have eczema, which reduces skin barrier function. However, because Shadow answered incorrectly, the next question goes to Jenny. Let's see if she can win a couple points.
Maybe I'll start a little bit easier and go with immunity for 100.
Let's see. What are some ways to build immunity in early life?
Studies have shown that attendance of a daycare during the first 6 months of life, as well as exposure to cowsheds and farming, can build up immunity.
That's right. What would you like next, Jenny?
I'm going to take a risk and go for cleanliness standards past versus present for 400.
When was the first vaccine introduced to humanity, and how long after were antibiotics used to treat illness?
The first vaccine was created in 1796 by Edward Jenner, who took material from smallpox blisters and injected it into another individual in order to build immunity. This allowed for antibiotics to be produced within, or antibodies to be produced within individuals, providing protection against the antigen or the virus itself. Antibodies were first used in the mid-1900s in order to fight off microbes.
Correct. We'll be back with more exciting competition right after the message from Tamiflu.
Tamiflu is a brand name version of the chemical complex oseltamivir phosphate, which works as an antiviral drug. Tamiflu is used to treat people who have exhibited symptoms of both type A and type B influenza. Tamiflu binds to the neuroterminase on the surface of the virus particles and hence inhibits the new viral particles' chemical ability to escape from the infected cell. In other words, Tamiflu sticks itself onto the pathogen and stops the ability to jump from cell to cell and stops it from infecting all the cells along the way. The virus then becomes restricted to a smaller area of the body, and the immune system doesn't have to work as hard to fight off a larger virus. Tamiflu is perfect for you, for fevers, headaches, and vomiting too.
Alright everyone, we're back and cooking up some mean competition between Jenny McLovin with $500 and Shadow McGee with a close $400. The next question goes to Jenny as she makes her comeback.
I'll take effects of allergies for $300, please.
Alrighty. What is something that can help prevent allergies?
Early exposure to bacteria and different viruses allows for immunity to begin to develop within the individual.
Correct. Jenny's on a hot streak. What is next, Jenny?
May I please have immunity for $200?
Why was hay fever in siblings a factor in studying immunity?
I know it.
Yes, Shadow?
In 1989, David Strachan observed that hay fever is much less common in children with older siblings. This suggests that multiple childhood cross-infections can actually protect the younger siblings.
Correct again. What's next, Shadow?
I'll go for immunity 400.
Let's see. How does our hyperclean world have an effect on our immunity in today's society?
It makes us more sick.
Although your answer is not wrong, we were looking for a more in-depth answer, somewhere along the lines of this, so you will not receive the points. The reduction of infections in our world contributes greatly to an increase in the frequency of autoimmune and allergic reactions. Since we are not exposed to common germs, we cannot create antibodies or immune responses to those.
I'll take fast facts for $200, please.
Nice. First fast facts of the night. Here it is. What is the most frequent chronic condition in children in the U.S. that could be combated by this hypothesis?
I believe it's asthma.
That is correct. Testing for asthma could reveal insights to primary prevention and the reason behind its relevant increase. As noted in the hygiene hypothesis, cases of asthma are continuing to rise in the U.S.
I will take cleanliness standards past, first, present for 200.
All right. What are some U.S. sanitation guidelines that we still have implanted today?
Because of the FDA and public health regulations, we have clean water standards, pasteurized, sterilized milk standards, and the removal of materialistic and bodily waste. These standards help to ensure the safety for citizens of the United States.
Correct. All right. What question would you like next?
I'll take effects on allergies for 400.
All right. Fill in the blank. In countries where good health standards are non-existent, prevalence of allergies is what?
Prevalence of allergies is low where good health standards are non-existent.
That's right. And countries with low health standards are chronically infected by pathogens, but show very low rates of allergic diseases due to the ability to create antibodies because of the exposure to pathogens. Switching it back to Jenny, what question?
I want to choose cleanliness standards past versus present for $100, please.
Okay, Jenny. How was disease spread throughout history?
Throughout history, disease was most often spread by migration and new contact with foreign pathogens. Migrants tended to develop diseases more often because they do not have incidence to those past pathogens. Rises in disease occurred during the switch between hunter-gatherer populations to agriculture populations and the Industrial Revolution.
Perfect answer, Jenny.
An EpiPen contains epinephrine, which works during an allergic reaction to open the airways and constrict blood vessels in order to cause an increase in blood pressure. This is mainly used when someone goes into anaphylactic shock in response to a bug bite, bug sting, food, animals, pollen, or any other common allergen they might have. Anaphylactic shock constricts airways, making it hard to breathe, and it dilates blood vessels, decreasing the pressure that forces blood to flow. EpiPen allows patients with allergies to carry their own epinephrine injection with them everywhere that they go, so that they have access to immediate relief in an emergent allergy event. The injection goes into the skin or muscle of the thigh and provides relief. The needle is sterile while kept in the package and is safe to be injected right through clothing in the event of an emergency. It is important to remember that after you use your EpiPen, you still call for emergency response, as the effects of the EpiPen may wear off after 10 to 20 minutes. This is perfect for any of your on-the-go allergy concerns. Here's a brief tutorial on how to use the EpiPen. Here's a tutorial on how to use your EpiPen. So first, when someone's in anaphylactic shock, you want to lay them down on a flat surface, completely flat. Then you take your EpiPen and remove the safety cap from the needle. Then you want to find the middle of their thigh on the outside and line it up perfectly. Then inject the needle until you hear a click. Then hold for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Now remove it and put the safety cap back on. Next, you want to call an ambulance and let them know what happened and what time you injected the epinephrine. Now, if the patient's condition doesn't improve within 5 minutes, you want to insert another EpiPen so that they have enough epinephrine flowing through their body. That's all.
All right, everybody, we're back and we're almost getting ready to wrap up the last few questions. Jenny is up next to pick a question, and it might make her the winner. What question would you like?
I will choose Fast Facts for 400, please.
All right, let's see. Which countries have the highest allergy rates?
The more developed the country, the higher their allergy rates tend to be. Some people believe this is because of exposure to microbes as a result of lack of sanitation in less developed countries.
Great job. We will switch it over to Shadow now for the third to last question.
I'm going to pick Fast Facts for 100.
Great choice. When testing immunoglobulin levels in rats, which one had more and why?
I'm pretty sure the lab rats had more compared to the wild rats.
Unfortunately, that is incorrect. Wild rats had much higher immunoglobulin levels because they didn't have access to medications that the lab rats were given. Therefore, their bodies were able to produce more immunoglobulin in order to compensate for not getting the medicine. Next question to Jenny.
I'll have immunity for 300, please.
How have studies on mice shown that immunity can become stronger as time goes on?
Studies have shown that immunity can be built through mice by injecting the mice with regulatory T cells. This injection allows for inducing generation of the T cells within the mice, helping them to build a more specific immunity.
Nice job. For the very last question, we're going to turn it back over to Shadow.
Since there's only one more option left, I'll have to go for Fast Facts 300.
The last question of the game, folks. Here it is. What are some statistics that prompt the reasoning for the hypothesis?
One statistic that I know is that since the 1950s, multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, type 1 diabetes, and asthma rates have grown by over 300%, suggesting that the hygiene hypothesis is legit.
What a game! I certainly learned a lot about the hygiene hypothesis, and I know our contestants did as well. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you again soon.
To conclude our discussion on the hygiene hypothesis, let's review what we learned about in the Jeopardy game. The contestants answered questions related to immunity, cleanliness standards both of the past and present time periods, as well as effects of the hypothesis on allergies and the rates at which they occur. Throughout their inquiries, the contestants learned about the fundamentals of what the hygiene hypothesis is and the way it affects our world and ourselves. According to our research, there has been a significant increase in allergy rates over the past few decades, especially as cleanliness standards have become more strict. We agree with these findings based on the research methods used to determine the hypothesis's credibility. We learned about several lab tests using rats and mice to determine whether or not the allergy rates would be affected by the decrease in bacteria prevalence.
To make a broader connection to how this hypothesis is seen in today's society, the recent outbreak of measles within the United States can be studied and questioned. Recently, parents have been questioning whether or not to vaccinate their children from diseases such as the measles, polio, and the flu. They believe that if they vaccinate their children, it can cause their children to develop autism or introduce them to pathogens that they would normally not be introduced to in the first place. Because of the number of parents that are choosing not to vaccinate their children, the prevalence of these life-threatening diseases are on the rise again. Those that do not vaccinate their children are carrying the disease and spreading it to those in the community that are also not vaccinated. This is seen in the measles outbreak in New York. Once a child is given a vaccine, they are exposed to pathogens that cause the life-threatening disease to begin. As demonstrated in siblings that were exposed to hay fever, those that had siblings that contracted hay fever were found to have a greater immunity against the disease. This is because their body was able to create antibodies against that disease. This concept is related to vaccines because when a vaccine is injected into your body, the portion of the virus, although it's dead, it allows your body to replicate it and make antibodies so that when you're exposed directly to the disease, your body will know how to fight it off.
The decrease in bacterial prevalence combined with the genetic predisposition might just be the cause of the rise of allergy rates. A study on gut commensals uncovered a decreased rate in microbacterial colonization, especially when the subject had a genetic predisposition to allergies. In other words, this study further proves the relationship between bacterial and allergic presence. Another large supportive claim for the hypothesis is due to the fact that underdeveloped with lower cleanliness standards hold lower allergy rates. Third world countries have higher death rates for all bacterial infections, however, barely exhibit any allergy cases at all. We learned so much throughout our research and elaboration on the hygiene hypothesis. We figured that Jeopardy would be a fun, easy way to convey the information that we learned to our classroom audience. To wrap things up, we will each discuss the most interesting thing we learned throughout our research, similar to the panel of experts during our class discussions on readings that take place during class.
The thing I found most interesting was the way that increasing bacteria rates became problematic. I never really thought about the switch from hunting and gathering to agriculture and how that would affect hygiene. I enjoyed learning about the health risks associated with groups that remained stagnant after traveling for a while. It was interesting to uncover the snowball chain of events that have led to contamination rates today. After the Neolithic Revolution came the Industrial Revolution, which promoted flocking migration to cities. The more people in cities, the more consumption that occurred, and after that, the more pollution, the more waste, and the more germs. It was during that time that sanitation movements began to be put in place. I enjoyed learning about this topic.
Personally, the thing that was most interesting to me was that the more developed countries have higher rates of allergies. I never knew before doing this research that allergies were not as prevalent in underdeveloped third world countries. The fact that they are exposed to more dirt, germs, and bacteria since they don't have the same cleanliness standards as developed countries like the United States, and that this protects them from allergies is surprising to me, but at the same time makes a lot of sense. It makes me wonder if disinfecting every surface in order to clean is truly the best idea, and we do it all the time. and the germs in dirt help build our immunity. And seeing the statistics of the increases in allergies over like the past century is kind of scary to me to think about how much this could increase in our future. But that's definitely the most interesting thing that I learned.
If I had to pick the most interesting part of the hygiene hypothesis, to me, I would pick how affected our society is because of our hyperclean world. As an athlete, I'm exposed to the large amount of people affected by asthma. Asthma is a result of our need for a clean world. It plays a large role on many athletes, including some of my teammates. They tend to have difficulty breathing after running large distances or quick sprints, and their lungs do not recover well from them. In addition to this, our hyperclean world is causing a number of allergies in people within our society to skyrocket, as well as the severity of them to worsen. I have seen these effects in my own life. One of my good friends in high school had to carry around an EpiPen everywhere he went because of his severe allergy to peanuts and tree nuts. This allergy caused him to have his own desk in every classroom. No one else was able to sit in them because in case they touched peanuts or tree nuts earlier that day and didn't wash their hands.
Thank you for watching!